we all got to figure that out. And so, as the program director of Massachusetts Council of Churches, we are excited to continue this journey with one another as we begin to bridge the gap between churches from all across Massachusetts and abroad. And so, without further delay, we're gonna just turn it over to our expert church and AI, DK Hammond.
What's up, family? A pleasure to be back. First of all, thank you, Black Ecumenical Council of Massachusetts, my brother Kenneth, my frat brother who's behind the scene, all of you, my father's children. Thank y'all for listening in and being a part of this conversation. Um, it is not lost upon me how things took off. No, I did not say things to be a person looking for clickbait. I was saying it in a moment to ensure that our people understood the brevity and the time that we were in. And I want to shift our conversation to think on things like artificial intelligence. And I want us to really consider over the past, at least for me, 3 years or so, sitting in my car or sitting in the airport or in between places, I'm always left with this thought. I don't know how much or which calling I'm failing at right now. I don't know where I'm failing at. And and I don't know which one is harder than the other, but I don't know which one I'm failing at. And today I want to help us think critically about the areas that we've been silent about, we hadn't told our spouses about, we deal with on a Sunday to Sunday basis that quietly eats away at us to try to get us to move from one place to the next. And I want to name that tonight because pretending that it doesn't exist is not really helping us at all. We need to live in the right now, not in what's worthless. So enter with me to dream, if you will, to dream, to dream on these things. What tools, hearing this statement, what tools am I lacking or do I need to be a better servant leader, disciple, and human being that operates in the place of the kingdom? There's no money attached to this dream. There's no additional board meeting that you have to get approval for this dream. But sitting back thinking critically and evaluating what's working in the dream, what's dying in the dream, and what needs to be built because of the dream. And if I'm thinking that way, and I'm thinking that I'm dreaming, then artificial intelligence is going to aid us to solve a problem or two. If you don't know who I am, I'm DK Hammonds. I've been pastoring and helping leaders for the last 20 years. I've been a part of enterprise IT for the last 20 years. And I have a burden to help local churches use artificial intelligence. That being said, I want us to consider that Silicon Valley has a different way of using this. But what ways could we use it? What ways could we use it to help an area of discipleship, following up, and to help us in sermon preparation if at all possible? This is the dream now. Nothing holding us back. In this dream, I want you to consider some names that you may want to write down as we're having this conversation. First name I want you to consider, he's my brother. And if he had time, I would have brought him on tonight too. That is Dr. Justin Lester. He has built an app called Pastor GPT that helps us take our sermons and extend them beyond the Sunday to Sunday service. Meaning, you can have a sermon that you preach, and I've said this in the talk. You can go back and watch it on YouTube. But you can have a sermon that you've preached, and the most important part of your sermon is the transcription. The most important part is the transcription. Why? Because it is that transcription that can be used for devotion, that can be used for following up, that can be used for welcome gifts, that can be used for books going in the future. It can always be in use one way or another. Pastor GPT helps you with that. Y'all got it? Cool. We're still dreaming, right? Bet. So I had an opportunity last year in Napa Valley working with Justin Lester um, to teach a hackathon. And this is going to be my second year teaching it. So please, ma'am, sir, if you have not, go over to Justin Lester's page, look and see if you're in time for the Napa Valley conference. I will be teaching the hackathon class again. I bring that up simply because at the hackathon, we were there to build applications and solve problems for the local church. Well, there was a sister there from on the East Coast, I think Philadelphia, if I remember correctly. She came into the class, high energy, bubbling over, willing to learn. She didn't know a lot about artificial intelligence, but she had a dream that things could be better if she used it. Well, the end result of that dream for her was that she created an app that has over 40,000 users that the current church uses currently to do their prayer and fasting. The app is called Seek, and that church is called Alfred Street. They're using lessons that we've done to help people get to where they're trying to go. We're talking about tools that we need in this dream to help us fulfill the mission and calling upon the life of our church. Okay, so you got Pastor GPT, you have Alfred Street Seek app. But what if you are trying to measure engagement? And what if you're trying to get information from one place to the next to see how things are growing? Well, that's called CHMS. And you want to use a CHMS system to measure engagement and growth of a church. Now, I'm not a person that's going to be a full proponent of the numbers are how we're going to move solely. That's incorrect. You need to have the Spirit of God and the data of man to make a clean decision in your technical aspect of your life. Spirit of God, data of man to make a good decision. Let me tell you something. God can do wonders with your data if you let him. But if you don't give him over your data, we can't make better decisions that's going to help us in the future. So you need to invest or think about systems like Church Metrics, which is free, that you can go right now. That's, I think, ran by the Life Church still. And a church can type in their metrics, and this can keep up with church metrics if you don't know how to do that. Then you have Excel spreadsheet that can keep up with your metrics, which I don't think is a more proficient way. But I think the best one, or best two or three, is you're thinking of something like Planning Center. And then you're thinking of something like Rock CHMS. These tools can help you and grow with you to give you better data about how your church moves digitally in this dream. Okay, so what if we're talking about discipling people? There is no one size to fit all in discipleship. That's kind of where that video went. I gave 7 steps in the conversation of that video. And in that 7 steps, I break down each step that the church needs to be addressing as it relates to the lifeline of their membership. Now, some churches are going to say, we're not there. We're not doing that. But how do you know if a person is actively engaged in your process if you don't have a process at all? Here's a simple principle in project management that I want to relate to you: people, product, process. I said again: people, product, process. To tell you something, there's nothing wrong with our product. The gospel still works. It is alive, breathing, and well. There's nothing wrong with our deity, Jesus Christ. And for some, that's something else. Nothing wrong with that. There's always something wrong with our process and our people. Biblically, I can tell you there's something wrong with the people because Jesus himself says this. Their harvest is plenteous, but it's them doggone laborers that we can't find. So it's not a one size fits all. You're going to find what size works for you. But every church should be thinking about how we handle baptism. Do we do it on a video? Do we do it with documentation? Do we have a class? Every church should be thinking about how do we assimilate or help people adopt measures of our culture, right? Small things. How do we do that? And then from there, how do we follow up with them to ensure that they got the information that we needed to relate to them? Got me? So if we're thinking along those lines, and the end result should always be, and I don't know if I said this, but I'm gonna say it here. The end result should always be if we're trying to make a disciple, then we're trying to create a leader. I'll say that one more time. If we're trying to make a disciple, then we're trying to create a leader. What does that look like in the life of your church? Because our process should lead to deployment of leadership. These people shouldn't be here forever sitting with frozen success. They should be deployed using and going about sharing the gospel to all who need to know it. If you're thinking about how you can handle your payment processing, let me tell you something. There are a lot of venture capitalists that would love to have all of your church data. A lot. If I'm thinking of church recommendations for giving, I would be looking at things like Givelify. It's a reason why I'm saying Givelify, because it applies to those who are of our descent. Now, let's say you don't use Givelify, you use something else. It's a strong possibility that somebody else is looking over your data. And you want to make sure that they are PCI compliant and that they understand that your data is your data, period. And that's the end of the story when it comes to the measure of giving. And I say this about giving because giving is highly important. Because if you're trying to teach people a new way, then you need to add digital payment processing to help them with that new way. I'm not saying remove um, paper envelopes. They have their place. I'm not saying that you can't have text messaging. It has its place. But I'm saying if we're thinking about increasing digital finances, here is a way to do it. There's also a guy that I'm very good friends with that I recommend. His name's Alan Adversary Graves, here in Little Rock, Arkansas at St. Mark, that helps with outreach and church financing and can help you pull strategically to go forward. These names are important to me, not because I know them, but because I've worked with them personally and I know their vision and their heart. Okay. If I'm thinking of streaming, I just got introduced to Video.Ninja, which is dope. But think of things like OBS. That's a free application to use, or Restream. If you're thinking about better, you're thinking about Resi, right? Those are good, better, best products that you can do to help you stream all the time. If your church can handle streaming. Now, let me say this since I'm here. If your church can't handle streaming, that's not a problem. You don't have to go rush and get, $2,000 cameras. But if you're going to do it to the glory of God. Website and development. If I'm thinking of website and development, listen, guys, the most important thing outside of the Bible, your pastor and their family, and you, is the church's website. It is a valid piece of artifact that people relate to make a decision about you and your church. And you need to invest in that, right? Some places are doing it for free. People like myself, my company handles that, DK Consults, and we can help you build that type of stuff. Or, again, we're talking about AI, or you can use applications like Claude that could help you build websites for your church. My only concern with Claude is that it may not be as secure for some of the data that you're going to be housing for church membership. That's it. Okay. Production in terms of AI, we can go all across the board of what we can use in terms of how to create graphics. Even the graphics that you're looking at now, artificial intelligence is being used there. So we can use artificial intelligence to our advantage. Let me say this, good family members. Please look, come closer to the camera. Because y'all using them AI flies like it's going out of style. And I'm not mad at you using them, but please figure out a way to use them appropriately. Let me give you some tips to help you build better AI flyers. You ready? Here it is. First tip, you need to put in there, design my flyer as if you were designing in Adobe or whatever graphic design platform that you're using. Take out some of the graininess in the background. Matter of fact, let's name the graininess so I'll know how to remove it in the future. Add cleaner possibly have to add to Canva to make sure you add facial expressions. Now, here's the thing, y'all. Y'all add in the flyers. I ain't got no problem with that. I used to. I don't know more. I'm not gonna argue with y'all about y'all flyers. But the problem is the people don't look the same. So you need to make sure you also add in those AI flyers. Do not change the facial expression of people that's in these photos because it's going to modify it every time. I gave y'all a lot of tips on how to better use artificial intelligence and its photos to give you something better on a production side. Now, that's a cool way. A good way is to go to Canva. They got great stuff in there that you can use for free. And let me put a shameless plug in here for Canva. If you are a nonprofit organization, Canva can be free for you if you would apply for the nonprofit status. We're dreaming, right? That ain't a dream, that's true. Canva can be free. Equally, what could be free is if you're needing emails. You need to think about Gmail and Microsoft. They can offer you a plan to give you web information and emails for a discounted rate. These things exist. So you ain't got to be using ilovejesus.com or or kennethsmith.gmail. You ain't got to use that no more. You can actually go get an email account and do good business, especially if you're a nonprofit, NGO. You should have an email account that comes directly to that platform. I've said a lot, but let's talk about and then I'm done. When I think about AI strategy, your church should be having a conversation about how we're going to use artificial intelligence and as it relates to church space. We should be thinking about that. We should have a plan in place. It should almost be a part of our church bylaws at this point. Let's say you don't know where to start. Well, there's documents like church IT stuff on my website that you can go to, things from Justin Lester that you can pick up. Let's say that you have more questions about preaching. I would say Reverend Tish Dixon Williams, who has the diagonal method that she's using that could be helping the African American church. It's those things that's available to us, that's made by us, that we can be using in this dream. And now that you've woken up from that dream, you've been resourced, you've been tooled, you've been empowered to do everything that God needs for you to do. Now go and be great.
Listen, I don't know if you can hear me.
I got you, bro.
Okay, cool. Man, that was awesome. That was amazing. I got like a lot of sticky notes, and we're asking people. I was like, "Oh, you're going too fast, slow down." um, but we're asking you all, like, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comment section.
Please.
We definitely want to be able to use this time to empower the people, and I think you've done a excellent job in like 20
Thank you, brother.
minutes. Um, so I'm gonna start off just because
Come on.
I got the
I'm here for
privilege to do that.
questions. Let's do
Yeah,
that.
man. So Pastor GPT, Chat
Yes.
GPT,
Hmm.
Justin Lester, Dr. Justin Lester. Can
Yes.
you talk to us a little bit more about that
Yeah.
particular product and like how do we get it? How is that a useful tool?
Mhm. So one of the things that last year we went to Hampton and spoke. Justin and myself both released an application. I kind of pulled mine back because I was doing some work on it, but he came out with Pastor GPT in an effort to help pastors with their sermon preparation as well as extend sermon life. It's one thing to be preaching on a Sunday and all of the labor and the work and the intensity that you've put into preaching, that people get a chance to experience on a Sunday basis. But there's always that one conversation, that one person when you leave church and you say, "Hey man, what the pastor preach about?" And most of them can't tell you anything. We had good worship though. We had great worship. But what did he preach about? Well, what if you had an application like GPT that could help give an overview on Monday about exactly what was preached about? That can help you synthesize sermons quickly. And let me tell you, since we're here, don't be trying to go to ChatGPT and get all your sermons. People of God, we see it already and we know it. Especially those who are learned, they can hear the voice, the study, and if you really got after it. Make sure when you are using applications like this that you're bringing something to the table. You're bringing your dream, but you're bringing your tools and you're bringing yourself. And so if you add tools, self, dreams to this application, you're going to get a better output so that people can experience the sermonic moment, not just on Sunday, but every other day after that.
Mm. No, I think that's awesome, man. When you're talking about that, I mean, just a little bit that I've done as far as like dabbling with it. One thing that I can say for me, it's a good like check as far
Mhm.
as sometimes not being as concise as you need to be when you're
Sure,
preaching. You know, it
sure.
can help with, making it concise and
Mhm.
uh hearable, if that's
Yeah.
it makes if you're making a big idea. I use Robinson's method along with others, but it makes it clear, like that one sentence, so that
Yes.
you don't keep wrestling with it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But as far as like, I'm not certain personally,
Mhm.
if it's able to give a sermon. I know some folks said they've been using it, but I mean, for me personally,
Sure.
like when you going to school, like you need to, you got to check. And then some stuff, it just doesn't, at least from what I've seen, it hasn't hit what it needs to
Mhm.
hit as far
Mhm.
as it doesn't understand all of the different things that you're wrestling with, right? So
Mhm.
someone who has studied the book of Hebrews all of their lives, this is what that's their specialty, Hebrews. um Chat GPT is not going to be able to give you that backdrop or that background and saying like, this
Mhm.
author says this and this author says this and this author, and you are working and whittling that down to say, okay, what do I think this text is saying? I haven't
Mhm.
seen that yet. So for all those who's like, I'm just going to use it and it's going to be, the replacement for thinking and reading and books, I'm not certain if it's there yet.
No, no, I
Okay.
don't think that is there.
Okay.
I think that it's a good assistant to synthesize. Remember,
Yes.
when I bring in myself and I bring in my tools and I bring in my thoughts, I bring that to the GPT to help me better synthesize the thought process. As a person that's at Phillips Theological Seminary currently, Y'all can't use AI, even though we do use AI.
Mm-hmm.
And what we use AI is if you're using Grammarly, that's a form of AI. If you're using any editing tools, Totoro even, a form of AI. So these things are existing, we're just not using them appropriately. And part of that is because we're not showing up fully as ourselves. We're expecting it to do the work for us. No, the work still has to be done as it relates to preaching the gospel. I'm going to say that one more time. The work still has to be done as it relates to preaching the gospel. However, the time can be shortened if you prepare yourself well for it to synthesize the information. And my job is to help pastors and leaders find more time,
Mm-hmm.
not to change full modalities and processes because they feel like I can just cut it down the middle. No, do not put God's people in a position like that. They deserve to hear the gospel message of Jesus Christ. Point blank, full stop. Now, let me help you even further. If you are using Logos, make sure the light hit my face so y'all can see it. If you're using Logos, you're using a form of artificial intelligence. I don't care what they tell you, I'm telling you what you see. And how do I know that to be true? Because how can searches find information unless it has help on the back end to help you find information about said topic? That's
Wow.
artificial intelligence all day,
Wow.
right? The question then becomes, does it have a bias? And is that bias leaning itself to who I am and my imago day, or is it leaning itself to some right wing duck?
Mm.
That's where you have to have the information to determine that.
Mm. So we
Somebody,
got two questions in the chat.
yeah,
One,
Bernard in there cooking. I see him.
yeah, I know. So I don't know if you want to go with the first one. He says, "Can you provide sample church AI policies?" I
Hmm.
believe that's what it's saying that we could use for Springboard.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to send some information your way. I have a document already created
Okay.
that's on my website somewhere. So I'll try to share that later for the group. But let's just say, if I'm thinking, let's just say without the document, let's talk through it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a church, I'm a part of Springboard, what information do we need to be discussing as it relates to our IT policy? Here's one: name, image, and likeness. Okay? Name, image, and likeness. Here's the other thing: if we have a data breach in our church, what is our response to the data breach? Do we have anything protecting us when somebody is phishing email accounts? What is our process to do that? If our internet goes down during service, what
Okay,
is
hold
our
on, DK, because this is we know you got it. I don't want you to move too fast. And some of us trying to write. So NIL, we heard
okay,
that with
name,
college.
okay,
That's name,
cool, cool,
image,
cool.
and likeness. We got
Okay,
that.
I'm gonna slow down. I got you.
But
So
you,
when I
I
think,
want to just put this in context too now,
yeah,
because you
brother.
know some of us we don't have an assistant. I'm just being real.
Yes, yes,
You
of
know,
course.
our deacons, some of our churches are trying their best to lead, and some of them are just not as tech savvy stewards.
Yep.
We can continue down the line,
Mhm.
and as you know, most pastors are bivocational, and so
Yes,
some of this stuff is just like, wow, it's something else on our plate. I think that's one
I
reason why folks are afraid when
when
you
you
use
use
terms
terms like
like data breach and phishing, and you're talking
yes,
about FISH, you're talking about PHISH.
I'm talking about PHISH. Hmm.
Yeah, so
Yes,
help us understand that before
yeah,
you continue to
cool.
cook.
All right, I'm sorry. So thank you,
Mhm.
brother. Slow me down. He done sat with me a couple of times. I'll go. All right. So when we're thinking about data breach and phishing, I want you to think about, to your point, the seasoned saint, the older administrator, the older pastor who has a regular Gmail account.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, out of the blue, They see an email and they're thinking it's an emergency from Miss Smith, right? Um, and Miss Smith, Dr. Smith or Dr. Jones opens the email from Miss Smith thinking it's an emergency. And when he opens this email, his computer goes haywire and starts sending out offers and emails to everybody else requesting money. That, my friend, in a nutshell, is what I described as phishing attempts.
Mm.
These are people on the outside of your secured environment knocking on the door to see who's going to answer. The door is your email account, right? And when you open that door, they're coming in, going through all of your email contacts and hitting them up, and then hitting their email accounts up, and forward and forward and forward. That's usually the use case scenario of phishing attempts. How can we then overcome those with those who are bivocational, older, may not have the finances, right? Then you want to put tools in place. I forgot the name of the application that could help you and stand in the way of that phishing attempt so you don't experience that data breach. My point in saying all of that is simply this: what are you going to do if these things happen to you? How are you going to respond? You don't have to call and do all of this. You can have a policy and procedure in place to tell you exactly what you need to do. That can be followed by a seasoned saint or a junior deacon.
Mm.
And so having these things in place for us helps the lifeline of your church continue, because technology is in our church in every shape, form, or fashion. If you have a stream of internet in your church, you have technology in your church. And if you have that in your church, you have to be a good steward and protecting the people in it, because there are weirdos and clowns looking to expose and take advantage of rural churches in that context. So I hope that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, that was helpful, man. It really was. Um, so he asked a question about how could I take the sermon, I think that's what
Mm,
he's saying, I preached, and only have the video form and put into the form you share
good,
to I
good.
think he's saying share throughout the week, like a
Yeah,
summary.
yeah, yeah. So he,
Synthesize, they say
yeah,
explain.
yeah. So Bernard is trying to get all my processes out of me before I get off this call. I got you, man. So if you are on YouTube and you're looking for a way to transcribe any video, you need to be looking for applications like Descript to help you with this transition, right? That being said, once you get Descript, you drop the information in there and it transcribes the entire video. Got it? And so you'll have all the information you need, and then you can take that and put that in your GPT, and the GPT can do the work for you that you're trying to do based on that transcription. Now imagine if you had the transcription, your sermon notes, and you put it in one place, what could you come up with? You could come up with a myriad of things that could help people throughout the week. So that's how you do
Okay.
it. Mm-hmm.
So the video, I want to go back to this. And if you
Mm-hmm.
have any more questions, please actually drop them in the chat. We got about 15 more minutes left.
Yeah.
So the video talked about basically how we can use systems, and you shared like people were baptized and you was
Yeah.
already contacting them before they basically kind of got out of the church. By the time they got home, checked the email, there
Yeah.
was already a follow-up. As I
Mm-hmm.
stated earlier with our live, inviting people to come on, like most of the time we can have folks to join, but we also have people that's leaving out the back door.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's and some of it is because of our systems are just not clear.
Mm-hmm.
The process may be outdated. Um, we know that we are constantly being in contact. You know, there's a thing that pop up on your phone saying, "Hey, we got 20% off on this product. We would love for you to just try it." And then they send you a message text message saying, "Would you like to subscribe?" And they
Yeah.
constantly are texting you saying, "Hey, we got a new product, we got a new sale, we want you to try this." If the world works like that, and I'm not saying we got to be like the world, but at
Sure.
some point we're gonna have to get into the arena, because if we in church for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and people are all over the place and being connected and communicated to throughout the week, and we only trying to communicate with them maybe Sunday and maybe a midweek, however your midweek works,
Yeah.
then I just don't know if that's enough. And so I'm asking
Mm-hmm.
you, how do we create these systems, which was kind of the big thing, like churches ain't growing basically because we don't have the systems. I think that was a part of
Yeah.
it. It's not the
Yeah.
whole, but that was a part of it. Like we don't have the systems to continue. And so
Yeah.
some people feel like they're left out.
Yeah, man. My heart goes out to you if you feel that way, because there are a lot of different things that can be done. And if you're focusing on the whole big elephant, you won't be able to enjoy just pieces of it. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
we need to break it down and segment it in such a way that can help us grow and continue to grow. So there's two statements, there's two fundamental rules here that you mentioned. First rule is the rule about, hey, how can we think of our workflow that's going to help us provide an experience that people are in contact and communication. Well, experiences like that need the human touch and digital outputs.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot remove the human touch fully from the process, because if you're like me, I can tell if this was sent by a person or this was automated. I've been doing it long enough to tell you that. But if a human says, "Hey, Pastor, I see that you came to the church and you visited. Such a pleasure to see you. Is there anything that we can do for you? Is there any place, any way we can pray for you?" This opens a door of conversation. Sometimes people are going to say no, but to not even ask is just as crazy, if not more. So it is about asking. So let's think about, I gave the process of, if you were in church, here is a process that you could use. Most of y'all are using the process, you just didn't label it quite the way that I said it. Or you don't have the digital output to keep up with it in a way that's going to bring in 1,000 people at one time. That's why you do the one-on-one meetings for your new membership Bibles class, because that helps you with your process. So we need to think about what digital systems can help us have a systematic approach that is equally not taking away the human experience. It is a balance of two, right? It is both in that case. So the other part of your question is that I'm thinking about, let's say, because see, now you're gonna make me open up another can. Cool. Let's say a person comes to church, they've been in church for the last year. We don't have any data points on them anymore for that last year from our CHMS system. We want to re-engage them, right?
CHMS.
That's customer relationship management system, or customer church relationship management system. When I
And
say
you're saying this
CHM,
is something that we may need to have.
you should have that. So let me back up. So when we think
Mm-hmm.
about CHMS, you're thinking about a system that houses your data: email addresses, phone numbers, names, date of births. All of that is centralized in one place, right? That's what I'm talking about. And so you'll be able to pull some of that information from there. Why? Because I can tell if you checked in for a Bible study, because that should be an attendance sheet that comes to us to tell us if you checked in. Or I can tell if you didn't check in for serve team. There's going to be a document that comes to us to tell us if you've done that. Now, I'm thinking in terms of, let's say that you're a rural church and none of that stuff matters to you. Okay, so for you, it's going to be way easier, because you're going to be able to look in the audience for 2 weeks and that person is not in the same seat they've been sitting in. Now you have a job here to do. Because you notice who they are, the question is, do you know their names? And most of the times we don't even know their names. We just know their personhood. That's a fault of our own, that we don't know people well enough that if they depart, we don't know. Cool. Let's say you do know their names. So now I can go to the system or talk to the administrator and say, this person has been on my heart. I haven't seen them. Can you just reach out to them to see if they're okay? And now that administrator say, hey, we hadn't seen you. We love you. We missed you. Do you have any needs that we need to address? And now that person is saying, man, I never had a church to call because I never had a church to even notice my personhood.
Mm.
And you become that church for them, right? And that's just using a rural context. If we would just follow up with people who may have left our church, maybe we could fix some of the problems in our church.
Mm. That's good.
Just maybe. Because they're going to tell us, hey, the reason why I'm not there is because my kids need some discipling and your church doesn't have discipling. Cool. We understand. We send our blessings your way. It's not church turf wars. If God tell you to move, salute to you, right? But equally, we're going to take that feedback and say, hey, Pastor, we had this to happen. Are we considering that? Is that a conversation that we need to have? So that's just a way that I would think if I was in a rural context, I only had 50 members. I'm going to know that my sheet missing.
Mm-hmm.
The number's going to be off. I'm going to see it. But if I had a church, let's say above 150, then I'm going to put some digital applications in place. Hey, we're just checking on you. Is everything okay? Do you have a need? Don't be trying to instantly send them an email like y'all pastors be sending emails about people tithing, which I think is crazy to me. Don't send no email like that. Send an email concerned that you love them. Hey, we miss you. We love you. Do you need anything? Have you gone somewhere else? And if so, we speak the blessings over your life. It's okay to leave us and go somewhere else. Churches don't even do that. So if I was to sum that up in a nutshell, brother, I would think we need to have a more in-depth conversation about church customer service.
Mm.
And
That's
we're
good.
not having that conversation, and we're not having a systems conversation, and therefore people are feeling mistreated and mishandled because these two things are not speaking to one another.
That's good. So it's a lot that's there, and I agree because we've had this conversation, I think, privately. Like I worked at
Yeah.
Kroger, and that was like one of the things, like customer engagement. You are
Mhm,
always looking for feedback, reviews, the surveys, etc.
mhm, mhm.
And we ain't getting no money from this, but like, I mean, you got certain stores like Publix, they give you really good service. The prices
Absolutely.
will be,
Mhm.
a little bit more, but they gonna give you really good service, and people know that.
Absolutely.
That's the reason why they go. Um,
Yes.
but what if that was the case in our churches, and then like, how do we actually get to that? It's like, how do we get to the Chick-fil-A, my
Mhm.
pleasure versus the usher. No offense to the ushers, they're like, you can't sit here, you can't, like that. It's just bad. To your point, it's just bad customer service if that's the first time and the first thing they see when they come through the door. My question
Yeah.
to you is, although we want to have the personal touch, if you bivocational, if you're rural, and
Yeah.
you're lacking the admin help, like would
Yeah.
an automated uh email
Yeah.
help, just to get a touch? Because in
Mhm.
the corporate world, we're talking about touches, right? I need to touch you
Yeah.
so many times,
Mhm.
just to get a touch for them to know, like, hey, we appreciate you coming and visiting. We don't want to make you stand up because some people feel like, that whole first time visitors, we want you to stand up, tell us your name, where you came from, who you
Right.
with, who do you know. And then some people feel like that's invasive now. Like,
It
whoa, I
is.
just came here
Mhm.
to worship, man. Like I don't even know if I'm really supposed to be here. To Bishop Walker's point, like I'm gonna figure out if I can belong before I believe. And
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to do this, and you making me stand up. I already feel like I don't fit in. So is it a good way to just say, hey, we just reaching out to see what we can do through an
Yeah.
email because
Yeah.
we,
I
yeah,
think if I was looking for an efficient way, I would definitely use email. Now,
okay,
let's say you cannot, and I'm just gonna break this down and we can build it up. Let's say that you cannot afford a DK consults to come in and help you do that. You can schedule the emails in Gmail that trigger themselves every Monday. All you need is an email address. And what you do is you already have the script written out. So it'd be the same script every Monday. Hey, we are glad that you came to our church. Here's an email to kind of give you a backdrop, a thought. Even in the email, if I wanted to go another step further, I can throw a video in there from the pastor. It doesn't have to be high production, just a touch point. There's a video. Here's three things we want you to learn about our church, and we look forward to seeing you. You can have that timed every Sunday or every Monday evening to go out to people. All you need is an email. So that leads us to the conversation. How then, DK, do you capture emails if you don't have that system? Well, you use forms like Google Form, right? Put a QR code up. Please fill that out. It comes right to you. It's already set. It's slippy copy and paste. And on Monday, this becomes a part of your task. Very simple, right? It may get old quick, but it's a starting point now. And so we have to think of projects not in just the long term. We got to think, what can we do in the short? What can we do in the middle? And what can we do for the long in terms of our digital capacity? And then if I was thinking beyond that, I would then think of a system that would help me email automatically. It would come up with an automation tool. AI could do that part for you, right? But there are systems that's already pre-created that all you got to do is the form is there. Once the form is then hit, it then goes over here and starts taking them through your what I would say your church customer journey. What do I want them to experience on this church customer
mm,
journey? Right? And it'll take it through it. So something like Jot Form. Jot Form is really good about this. You fill out that form, easy. Listen, don't be trying to get all the information in the forms, y'all. Y'all be trying to get date of births on the front end and phone numbers. No, the most important thing to gather is the email and the first and last name. You don't have to even get their phone numbers yet. They want you to have their phone number, they're going to give it to you.
mm.
But the email is the doorway. And if I do it in job form, I can create the workflow and the workflow can do the work for me.
Mm.
Right. So those are just two ways. And then if it's something more custom you want to do, then you got to think, okay, what kind of back end system, CHMS system do I have? And do I need something built? That's how you would do it in a very methodical way. Short term, mid grade, long term.
Awesome, man. Man, you done helped us a lot tonight. I hope for those who listen and they feel like they've been helped. I know those who are gonna go back and rewatch it, if they haven't, they need to go back and
Yeah.
rewatch the whole entire thing. This has been a blessing. You do consulting. This is the last question. You do consulting.
Yeah.
Um, you told us that you worked with Pastor Tim Ross before. You work with
Yeah.
other churches. I talked
Yeah.
about you working with National Baptist Convention
Yeah.
USA,
Mhm.
Congress. That's your work.
Mhm.
Um, what does it look like for DK Hammond to roll up and do consultation for your church?
Yeah. So good you asked that. You would go to dkconsults.org first. You would send an email or a discovery call to us. My admin will get that email or discovery call. We'll schedule that time and come together to determine the needs that you have in your church, whether it be from a systemic standpoint or whether it be from a media standpoint. And then we'll come back with solutions in which is going to best fit you in whatever context you're shaped in, whether it be NGO, for profit, or nonprofit, doesn't matter. And that's how I do business. I'm my own. I have 7 employees that I take care of on a day-to-day basis, including myself. Some of my employees are overseas, some of them are here, and for the most part, you'll be working with me, hands on. We'll be plowing to the music and getting to where we're trying to go, and then we'll create a strategy in which is going to best fit your needs, give you a timeline and a pricing if necessary. Discovery calls don't cost you anything. Sign up and talk to me, and we can kind of see what you need based upon that. So that's kind of how you can find me. If you need to reach me there, Facebook, social media, I am DK Hammonds is how you can reach me on the social media platforms, and you can see a myriad of my work and my public thoughts in the same place. And some of my public thoughts are a little bit crazy, and I have fun because I try to be balanced as I can. But all those things are there. And I would love to just work with more churches to help them see the goodness of God through technology.
Man, that's awesome. We are so appreciative of your time, man,
Yeah, man.
and coming in and doing this with us. This is our first live, so we appreciate you working with us
Salute.
and our technology and all that good stuff that we're trying to do. If you haven't seen Will Struthers Stroh Studios, he's in the background working through this, and so he's done an amazing job. This has been our first one. Um, Again, look up and follow I am DK Hammond. If you have any questions, please go and ask. If you learn anything today, it probably means that you need a deeper conversation. Because I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, man, like it's a lot that we could do with this. But yeah, so I think that's awesome. Um, Last thing I would say, like, please follow us at Black Ecumenical. The
Yes.
work that we're doing is creating space for Black churches to connect across the Commonwealth, and just, I mean, now we've been doing stuff, man, and this is kind of been outside of our New England context. And some of the questions I was asking was from a New England context. And some of it was just because I got friends all across the nation who were like, man, I really don't understand this chat GPT
Mhm.
stuff, AI,
Yeah.
not sure what I'm supposed to be using, how my church is supposed to use it. So I
Mhm.
think this is a good time for us to at least get in the conversation before it's thrown on to us, because there's several places who have been saying that they put this on us and now we don't know what to do with it. So
Yes. Yes.
we don't want to be caught off guard. So once again, man, we're so grateful for DK
Yeah.
coming to join us. Look him up. Please contact him. I would implore you to at least do the free consult. I mean, if you learn anything today, you probably need to check in. Yeah, like I don't have any of this for in my bylaws about phishing or NIL. So all of the things. So you probably should at least just check in and say, hey, what do you think about X? And I'm sure he's gonna have an answer for you. And then
Yeah.
if you need to go deeper, you talked about live streams. A lot of us are trying to do that work well, and we may not
Mhm.
be doing it as well as we should.
Mhm.
We talked about systems and how systems can be efficient and effective and impactful.
Yes.
Some of this
Yes.
is probably taking a lot of time from pastors and secretaries and weighing in on people, and people just get burned out because it's not efficient. And so, that may be a question that you may have. And then, the creatives, there's a lot of people who are dabbling and trying to do flyers and trying to do the communications piece. That may
Yes.
be something that you want to get in
Yes.
contact with him. Last, I would say for the preachers, hey, how can my sermon live outside of the Sunday morning
Come on, man.
moment? I mean, everybody needs something during the week. And
Mhm.
while we want people, in the words of Bishop Walker, we want butts in the seats. That may not be where we are right now, but we need to figure out those fingerprints. And so, I would say please follow up with him. Don't let this resource just pass us by. We're so
Yeah.
grateful for the work that you're doing in the kingdom, and we thank God for each and every one of you. Follow us, and if you would like to be in contact with us, please just hit us up on all our social media, whether it's Black Ecumenical, Facebook, Instagram, even our YouTube. Man, go check us out. We appreciate you. We love you, and we're praying